Looks like we're up on a Freaky Friday. In fact, it's a Good Friday, although Jesus Christ wants to know what's so good about peace, love, and understanding.
Well,
Who's going to help me
yeah,
roll away the stone?
I've never quite understood why they call it Good Friday. It's
Maybe they
always,
just mean it's good for business.
yeah. I mean, I've just never because you don't say. I mean, it's improper to say Happy Good Friday to somebody, although many people will do that.
Have a
And
mournful Easter.
and I'm always one to to point out that the joyous holiday comes on Sunday. The solemn holiday is today. And of course, yesterday with the Last Supper, because you do want to eat before you get crucified. You want to have.
When
They
the
tell
last
you,
meal,
yeah, they tell you don't want to get crucified on an empty stomach.
you don't want to do
So
much of anything on an empty stomach except maybe a colonoscopy.
yeah, they gather everybody together at a big table, and they have the Last Supper.
Maybe you
Although,
have to eat fish on Friday, but the priest can eat what he wants.
yeah, the priest can. Well, I think, yeah, yeah. Now they've changed that. Although again, it used to be when we were young that you had to fast on Friday. I mean, you couldn't eat anything from noon to 3
For 3 hours, that's
for 3 hours.
fasting.
You fasted.
That's 3 hours of fasting. Isn't it
Yes.
just 3 hours of not eating is it considered fasting if you don't eat anything for 3 hours? Because most people fast every day under those circumstances.
Well, I think adults had to fast the whole day or something like. I don't remember what it was because they changed it all of a sudden. Just like the fish on Friday thing. Um, all of a sudden they told you to do this for years and years and years. Then all of a sudden they said, "Well, you don't have to do that anymore."
And the
And
priest can go to White Castle on a Friday
and the priest
because
can head over to White Castle and scarf up, 25 on one with cheese, pickle, and ketchup if he'd like, and nobody can say anything. So,
nobody can say anything.
well, when you're a priest, there'll always be those. I mean, I think this is common in probably any group of people, but there are older women in the church, in the parish, in the group
Who
that
bring
follow these
flowers.
priests around and like make sure that they're living the life that they're supposed to. Now I don't know how in the world they ever missed the whole diddling scandal, but they did. But there's the woman who takes care of the of the rectory, and then there's the women who are in the Holy Name Society, and then there's the women who are in the Knights of Columbus, or the auxiliaries. I mean, if you're a Catholic, there's always somebody watching you. The whole religion is predicated on guilt, and in order to have guilt, somebody has to catch you.
And you don't have to earn your guilt. You're born with it.
Yeah, yeah, you just get it. You get it as a free gift. Like when they give you that basket at the hospital.
Gift with purchase.
I'm sure you remember, when you took Kailani home from the hospital, they gave you a basket with, some diapers and some kind of wipes, maybe. Well, they didn't have wipes in those days. A scat of Johnson baby products like shampoo, baby oil, and all that other stuff. And if you look, there was an envelope under the baby oil, a big purple envelope that said Catholic guilt, and you could take it or you could leave it. Now, if you're Catholic, you take it. If you're Protestant or Jewish or something, maybe you leave it. You say, I
What
don't
about the
want.
Presbyterian Guild? Is Presbyterian Guild on the market? Is it marketable? Anybody
I
want
think
any?
Presbyterian guilt is much. Catholic guilt and Jewish guilt are they're the number one guilts.
What about guilt for not taking the undercoating when it was offered to you at the dealership?
I don't think you should ever feel guilty for that. Matter of fact, as we have found out in later years, the undercoating offered to you at the dealership 99 out of 100 times is a scam. I mean,
Like no meat on Friday.
well, I don't know if No Meat on Friday was a scam. I think it was a vehicle to help the fishermen in the town out, because more people were eating meat on Friday and the fishermen were doing okay. I mean, everybody was going for beef at some point, and nobody was eating fish anymore. And the fishermen were getting kind of upset about that. We got these fish, and the beef, you can keep it for a few days before it starts to get smelly. The fish, I mean, 2 days, man, and it's cat food.
What about fish sticks? Does that count as a food stuff? Can that be
No,
used?
no,
Substitute? No?
no. It didn't count
Because
until
it's made from various parts of the fish that are fashioned into sticks and then frozen.
by some woman named Mrs. Paul. Notice there was never a Mr. Paul. You ever see a Mr. Paul?
He was a fisherman, lost his life on the Outer Banks.
No, that was Gorton. That was Gorton that did.
Didn't they all go down on the same ship
No, with different ships. One
in the
went up
Baltimore Harbor?
out in Alaska looking for cod, and I think the other one was I think Mr. Paul bought it searching. I think he ate a blowfish without
Is
taking the
it,
poison out of it.
is it Mr. Paul that has the fish concession at the Mariner games?
No, that's Gorton.
That's
Yeah, it's
Gordon.
definitely Gorton that has that
That's a good fish. It's
concession.
a good
Yeah, Gorton
frozen
was
fish
a good
stick.
fish. He was an okay fish. I liked him. He looked a little out of it at times, but all in all, he was a good guy. He was able to keep the things going. Can you buy fish sticks at the ballpark?
You shouldn't be
I know
able
you
to.
get sushi.
That's not I don't think it passes. Fish sticks and sushi are two different animals. Can you get
Right.
calamari
What
at
I'm saying
the ball
is
club?
I don't know if you can get. I mean, I know you can get sushi at the ballpark, and that's okay for Friday because it's fish. But fish sticks, I don't know if you can buy fish sticks at the ballpark. Although I got to admit that one of my favorite meals on growing up was fish sticks, mashed potatoes, and peas.
Can't go wrong. You can use the fish sticks to navigate yourself around the peas and the potatoes.
Well, I would mix the peas and potatoes.
Now, was
You
there
know,
ever a time in your life when you didn't want your food to touch, like some kids?
no, no, man. It could touch, it could dance, it could fuck on the plate. I don't care.
But you
It was
understand there are some purists who don't want their potatoes to actually touch anything.
I know I dated somebody like that once that the food, I mean, she would send it back if you got like how you get like you get gravy and a mashed potato, the gravy sometimes will run off and hit the few peas on the end of the plate or something like that.
Run off with Mrs. Paul.
She would send it back to the kitchen. And I was like mortified. I mean, it hurt on two levels. Number one, I thought it was one of the most anal retentive things I had ever seen in my life. Matter of fact, it was anal retentive before I even knew what anal retentive was.
But you knew something was amiss.
But I knew something. I knew that this one was not going to be the marrying kind. Um, and so, number one, she sends it back to the kitchen, and that's embarrassing. But then the second part of it is that I'm like classically trained. You don't eat your food if the other person doesn't have their food. You have to sit there and wait.
So you had to wait.
So not only, and they'll tell you, "Oh, go ahead," but if you go ahead,
You're in trouble.
you're toast.
Plus, you were in trouble already because your food was touching when it got to the table.
Right. But luckily, she didn't look at it and say, "Your food's touching. I can't. I have to leave." She was just concerned about her food touching, which I thought was an endearing quality. She didn't force her views. And I remember she was a Republican, so she didn't force her political views nor her food obsessions on me, which I thought was actually kind of nice. It's not like if you date a Trumper, they
I
want
had
to
a
convert.
I had a Republican friend send me a notice on Facebook notifying the world that cargo ships the size of the one that crashed in Baltimore can still be steered even when the power's off. When there's no power to the steering mechanism and there's no power to the propellers, Republicans believe that that vessel upon the water can still be controlled by the pilot.
Well, it actually can be.
And there's no explanation beyond that. It's just it can. That's all.
Right.
Your food
Problem
touches. Your
is,
food doesn't touch. The ship can be.
it's a manual operation. So, first of all, I believe if I read what I read right, you have to have two people to do it because the rudder thing is so big that it can't be turned by one human being, no matter how strong they are. It has to be two. Uh, Secondly, they had 22 seconds
To come up with a solution.
to come up with a solution. Um, I don't know about you, but if I wake up, I can't get out of bed in 22 seconds.
It would be a
Um,
world record. Yeah.
the place could be on fire, and I'd need 30 to 40. Um, so, and I've heard all of this. There's a list of conspiracy theories that are already out there. I mean, I think we talked about this Wednesday. Glenn Beck was putting out his conspiracy theory, and then there's several interesting conspiracy theories already that this was a terrorist act, that this wasn't an accident, that these people intentionally did it because there was one guy on CNN espousing or spouting, I should say, and espousing the idea that the captain of the ship lined up the point of the bow exactly with the abutment, the support, so that it would
So
have the
in,
maximum effect of taking it out. That if it would have
intentional.
glanced off the side, and never
And
mind that.
he did that because we have an open border, and he gained access to America through subterfuge.
Yeah, I think the best one that I saw was
Did he
that.
talk his way onto the boat to say I'm a captain, soy
Well,
capitan?
the interesting thing about that, though, is that the captain at that point is not in charge of the boat. The boat is being driven by a pilot who is
Harbor pilot.
a employee of the Port of Baltimore, whose job is to board a ship, steer it through, navigate it through the canal that he is familiar with, or the river that he or she is familiar with, and then get it out to open sea, where they board a tugboat out there and take off, and the ship heads out to whatever point it's going to, and everybody sits quiet.
Unless you're a pilot named Hunter Biden. Did you ever think of that?
Well, I don't know that he's piloting anything, is he?
Not anymore. Just that one ship.
Oh, well, maybe that's it. The other conspiracy theory I really liked was the one where I guess the Obamas did a film that ran on Netflix last year, year before maybe, and
They predicted the end of Baltimore.
there was a scene in it where a ship hits a bridge.
Not a
I don't know if
fan.
it collapses or anything, but a ship hits the bridge, and several people have already come up with the idea that was that was the signal, the plan, the bat signal, if you will, to have a ship hit a bridge and take out an entire port.
And the only people who saw this film were Republicans. That's the interesting point of it. It's hard to believe.
And I haven't heard one Republican, which I found interesting, and I've kept an eye on this. I haven't heard one Republican memorialize any of the immigrants, any of the um, people who were working on the bridge, who were from either Central or South America, um, or talk about them in any kind of.
One of them is so anonymous, I don't even know his name. It's just number 6.
Yeah, but none of the. I haven't heard any of the Republican, people that have decided to step front and talk about this. Any of them express any kind of sympathy for any of those people that have gone down on that
Well,
bridge.
the reason for that, Vinny, is because they're so sad that that ship was loaded with white trash, and they were taking it to spots unknown, to the Outer Banks, where Mrs. Gordon and Mrs. Paul went down. They're going to the Outer Banks and dump it there. With a
Well,
lifetime supply of white trash.
it just shows you how screwed up we are as a nation. That we can, there are people who can look at an incident like this and immediately, and you got to give Glenn Beck credit. He was out with this conspiracy theory minutes after it happened. He must have been up waiting for a conspiracy theory to rear its ugly head.
But he was up all night. He was up all night with a rash.
Yeah, he had a terrible rash. But he was out there with this conspiracy theory, moments after the accident happened. He knew. He had high placed sources that told him.
Well, none of this measures to what happened in Oakland last night. I don't know if you heard about it.
No, I haven't. But immediately, if you say what happened in Oakland last night, I don't have like a good vibe. It wasn't a peace and love festival. People didn't hold hands around Lake Merritt or anything like that.
No, in the parking lot of the Oakland Coliseum, there were more people who went to the game and did not attend the game than were in the game. Opening day in Oakland again with the Cleveland Commanders or the Traffic Spiders, whatever they're called. The Cleveland Traffic Spiders went to Oakland to play the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's don't have a home to go to next year, but they've decided that Oakland won't be it. So the fans showed up and stayed in the parking lot. 18,000 people stayed in the parking lot. Only 13,000 attended the game. And somebody gave them free tacos. Somebody came up with a promotion that they thought was going to work.
And, well, you probably got.
And their sign and their message to the Oakland A's ownership was one word: sell.
Boy, what a tragic, just such a tragic circumstance that has become. The people that I mean, that was such a. I mean, you always looked forward to opening day at the Coliseum. Everybody used to dress up in tuxedos to go to the Coliseum, and people in the stands used to rent tuxedos to go to opening day at the Coliseum or opening night at the Coliseum.
You could get yellow and green tuxedos.
It was a big deal. People dressed up in if not tuxedos, ties and jackets, and I mean it was truly opening night. The Haas's, when they owned the franchise, tried to bring it up to the same level as the opera or the symphony or opening night of those cultural events, and did a great job doing it. I always thought it was a great it was a great night to be at the ballpark.
They decided to keep the Levi business and sell the rest.
Yeah, and they were the last true good owners that the franchise had. Matter of fact, in my lifetime, they might have been the only good owners that franchise has had. Um, you can go either way on Finley. Um, he did win a number of championships, so it's hard to go completely harsh on him.
But he did try to destroy the team for reasons that can't be explained fully, and the league had to stop him.
Yeah. Then you had, the Haases, who did a wonderful job with the team, very community minded. Brought Billy Martin in to and
Played a little Billy Ball.
played some Billy Ball. Had a fantastic advertising campaign. Brought people, made the Oakland Coliseum a place to go again. I mean, people forget that in 1980, the A's games were carried on KALX,
University of California station.
University of California radio station.
At least it was commercial free.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have commercials. You had underwriting announcements, but you didn't have commercials. And then they sold. I forget the group that they sold it to, but they immediately said that they needed a new stadium, and they kind of got screwed with Al Davis coming back to town because Oakland whored themselves out to Al Davis so that they could get him to come back to town, only for him to leave a second time.
And the A's said, "Where did he go? He went to Vegas."
Kind of like that.
That's where we're going. No, but you don't have a deal. Al Davis had a deal. He's got a stadium. We'll get that too. No, you won't.
It's kind of like that.
No, you won't.
That girlfriend you go back to, the 2 a.m. booty call.
Now I'm your boyfriend, right? No, not exactly. Not exclusively.
Yeah, but I'll be by the bar closes in about an hour. I'll be by. Just leave the door unlocked.
Well, I'll trade you a rainstorm for what happened to the Giants. The Mets didn't play. They were destined to play the Milwaukee Brewers on opening night, but the weatherman said no game tonight.
Well, and what was very interesting about that is that I was saved from that fate because I had originally had planned to go back for opening day because the auto show is going on in New York right now. So I was going to go to the auto show and go to opening day, then go to Pittsburgh and get my stuff. And my nephew is in town to visit Seattle U and to visit University of Washington, as he is considering both of those schools to go to for college.
But he's not from there, is he?
No, he's not from here. No, he's from Sacramento.
That's not going to work.
So
that's not going to work at all.
I'm not saying anything to him yet. I'm letting him take the whole thing in and then see what he says. We spent the day together yesterday. We're going to go. He's
how many times in one day has he been asked where you're from?
Many, because he was walking around in a t-shirt, and that doesn't happen here in Seattle. So,
well, the Giants pulled off their opening day loss, which they've done now several years in a row. Their relief pitcher got hurt by himself. He just got hurt on the mound doing pitching things. So he's on the 15-day. We'll see how long that takes for him to come back. It could be a while. So they're going to have to bring up second day of the year. They're going to have to bring up another pitcher. And we're starting a kid named Kyle Henderson, who's a big prospect, Vinnie. He could be a name that we all know by the end of the season. And he's going to get his shot against San Diego. We'll see if they can do it. See if we can put together some runs. Logan Webb was our ace who starts opening day now. This is his third or fourth year in a row. And Logan Webb is famous for one thing among the Giants: when he pitches, we don't score runs. And
I was
so I
going to
should
say losing seems to be.
losing is he's a great pitcher. He fanned I think 5 or 6 Dodgers. He had a pretty good run until he got to Mookie Betts, Murphy, and Otani. Although Otani ran through the signals and got put out at third for being a little too quick on the bases. So Kyle Henderson pitches. Let's hope he can get through the game without hurting himself in the mound. Apparently, that elevated mound is more than the Giants pitchers were prepared for.
Yeah, it's yeah, the Mariners suffered a similar fate last night in that they, as a matter of fact, this happened to me 2 times yesterday, 3 times. I got in the car and I had the Giants game on, and as soon as I got in the car, the Padres went ahead,
6-4.
and I was like, "Crap!" So I got out of the car. When I did, I got back in the car, and the Mariners were on, and the Mariners were ahead. And 2 minutes after I was in the car, I forget who it was uh,
Boston.
from the Red Sox, a phenomenally weak team, who has been made weak or gutted, uh, wound up hitting a home run, sending one over the wall, and tying the game up. And then I got out of the car again. I got back in the car a few minutes later because I took my nephew to see something. We went over to Alki, and as I got back in the car, uh, the Mariner pitching staff decided that they'd had seen enough,
They'd had
and
enough.
they gave another home run up to a Boston Red Sox and put them ahead 6-4, a fate which the Mariners could never recover from.
Maybe the
So,
pitching staff and the bullpen get together and say, this game's gone on long enough. We'd like to go home. We'd like a shower and a post-game meal and just go back to the clubhouse.
yeah, 3 times in the space of 2 hours, I heard teams that were ahead fall behind and then lose.
Well, if you're superstitious, you caused all that by the way you were listening to the radio. Do you believe that?
I think part of the problem was I was not listening to the radio on satellite radio. I was listening to the Mariner game on terrestrial radio on something called Seattle Sports,
Never heard of it. What's
which
that all about?
doesn't identify itself as a radio station at all. They never say you're listening to 710 Cairo. They just say you're listening to Seattle Sports. And if you switch it over to the FM, where you would have the possibility of maybe hearing the signal,
Yes.
um, you had some dude screaming about conspiracy theories from the bridge down in San Diego. From the bridge, I should say, in Baltimore.
What
Uh,
about the idea of we pause 10 seconds for our station to identify itself, or we pause 30 seconds and then give them a shot at not identifying themselves? Take a
we,
wild
we don't.
guess.
It doesn't seem like we do that at all anymore. It's just they come on and you're listening to the Mariners on Seattle Sports. Now, what in the world is Seattle Sports?
Is it an entity separate from Cairo?
Well, I think they're trying to make it that because they want you to identify Cairo with the FM, which is a completely ludicrous proposition because I couldn't understand why you wouldn't put the opening day game at least on the FM as well as the AM. I mean, you have this strong signal with the FM. They've done some stuff to improve it. You can actually hear it as opposed to the AM, which sounded like it was coming to you from a cracker box.
The cracker box.
It was, you could
And who's
hardly
in there?
hear
Who's in the cracker box? Mrs. Paul or Mr. Gordon?
both. And I think who's the other fish stick mogul? There's another fish stick mogul as well. Oh,
I
Dr.
think
Prager. Doesn't he have vegetarian fish sticks?
now, he's a talk show host, Dennis Prager. You don't want to eat his fish.
Yeah, his fish stinks. Um, so I'm listening to the game and I can't. The signal is so bad on the game that I can't tell who the announcer is.
I thought Cairo was 50,000. I'm sorry. I thought Seattle Sports was 50,000 watts.
Well, they must have been pointing in a very different direction than I was in, and I was 3 blocks from the ballpark down on the waterfront. So I would have been better off just driving over to the ballpark and listening to the loudspeakers that they broadcast the game on outside the stadium. I guess to entice you to come in.
It doesn't work in Oakland.
Yeah, there's so much action going on here that maybe I'll come into the ballpark. So anyway, the Mariners wound up blowing that one. And I considered myself lucky last night that I didn't go back to New York for opening day because it's always one of my favorite days of the year. And I just, I'm going to go tonight. I'm hoping that the same fate will not befall the Mariners tonight as did last night. My favorite is pitching tonight.
Who's that?
Oh, yeah, George Kirby. I would make a sign, Michael, that says, oh, yeah, but I don't know that anybody in that ballpark would ever get it.
No.
And it makes me feel bad for the people in the ballpark and George Kirby. But this is the world that we are leaving, people.
This is the business we've chosen.
Full of conspiracy theories and people who don't know one of the great comics of the '60s tagline. I mean, George Kirby doing "Oh Yeah" on the Sullivan Show was as popular in the '60s as Rodney Dangerfield was doing "I Don't Get No Respect." Of course, Rodney didn't really catch on until the '70s. George was, I don't know what the hell ever happened to George Kirby.
Oh, no. You don't know?
I think didn't we look it up last year? Didn't I think at some point when George Kirby was pitching?
Didn't he die filling potholes on the bridge?
No, I don't think so. I don't think George.
He could have been number 6. We don't know.
See, here's the problem when you Google George Kirby, you get George Kirby, the baseball pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. How far down do you have to go? That is also a George Kirby actor who is known for Accident Man, Hitman's Holiday, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and Doctor Strange.
He was among the 18,000 in the A's parking lot last night. He didn't go in the game. You drive all the way to Hagenberger Road and don't attend the game.
All right, so now people all related, such as George. Oh, yes, George Kirby passed away on September 30th, 1995, was an American comedian, singer, and actor.
Singer.
Born in 1923. There's a great clip here of the Temptations with George Kirby.
Really?
Yeah. He, of course, passed away in Las Vegas. We're all good comedians.
That's what
Should
the A's
pass.
hoping happens to them. Their dreams of a stadium passed away in Las Vegas, just about right down the street from where Kirby died. In fact, everything is right down the street from where Kirby died in Vegas. It's either up the street or down the street, but within the neighborhood.
Right. Now I remember. Yeah, he got popped for trafficking drugs, but I think there was a whole thing about this that that he didn't do it, or that there was they didn't they kind of railroaded him into jail. But I remember him. He was pretty funny. You know, he had that line that, oh yeah, you know, and I remember that, you know, from when, you know, from when he was an active comedian. He kind of, you know, he was a big guy, and I remember he kind of for a while got into like a Mom's Mabley type of thing.
Oh
You know, you
yeah,
remember Mabley
I do.
would dress up kind of dowdy and almost looked like a black Crazy Guggenheim.
Yep.
For those of you who remember Frank Fontaine from the Jackie Gleason show, who played the character um, Crazy Guggenheim. And for a while, I remember he did that. Matter of fact, he might have even been on. He might have had a series, I think, in the 70s or 60s where he played that type of character. Anyway, so anyway, we're going to see George Kirby pitch tonight. After my
Well, you're gonna, and when you're there, please take a lap around the ballpark just to find out if they have fish sticks. Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now that I don't think they have fish sticks. I think fish sticks are something that.
Can you buy a whole salmon at the ballpark and have them prepare it, bring it to your seat?
Well, if you go down to the Diamond Club, which is the fancy name for the seats behind home plate, and you participate in that, you know, that club where you can get up and go in and have a buffet table, I'm pretty sure they have salmon in there. I'm pretty sure, if I remember, that they have. I mean, I haven't been there in a bunch of years, but
Calamari. You think they have calamari?
no, the only, you know, it's funny. The only ballpark I ever seen calamari in was Pittsburgh.
I think San Francisco's ballpark has it. Used to.
Yeah, yeah. I think I know I had great calamari in in Pittsburgh. I mean,
In the
the
bird.
press room food in Pittsburgh was bar none the best press room food. Even I think we even talked about this before. Even with Perry's Catering, the press room in Giant Spring Training, it was still um, the chef that they had. This guy knew how to cook Italian. I mean, you'd go in there and it'd be veal scallopini, uh, veal parmesan, um, you know, marsala,
Is he still there? Or did he get traded to Toronto?
Yeah, he was bar none in the time I was there, the best ballpark food I'd ever eaten. The spread, the salad bar spread, was better than any salad bar any sizzler I'd been to. I mean, they didn't just stick around with ham and cheese. They had Genoa salami, they had prosciutto, they had capicola, the hot capicola. I mean, they had an array of it. I mean, this is a buffet you would find at a wedding. And they had this thing out every night. Good Italian bread. I mean, like, you know, the good Italian, not the stuff they try to pass off at Whole Foods. Um, but the really good, crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. Like if you go get a, what is it, the banh mi, the Vietnamese sandwich, they have that
Mhm.
same kind of Italian bread. crisp on the outside, soft on the inside, no sourdough bullshit.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I know. I'm hungry too now. But I can't eat meat today. I have to go get fish sticks.
We have to remember not to use water or flush the toilets between 10 and 1 in the building today. Who do you think's going to forget and flush the toilet?
You.
Of course.
Yeah.
I told him,
Yeah.
I said, when at 10:05, when somebody flushes the toilet, it's going to be me.
Well, if you have somebody, come up to your door,
Soaking wet.
soaking wet and covered in brown specks, I got a funny feeling.
It's either Biff Jiggerman or a hint that something was gone terribly wrong in the basement.
So they had the wrong pipe disconnected at the wrong time. By the way, going back to baseball for just 1 second, I don't know if you saw this on my Facebook. I put it up there. The Mets will honor Buddy Harrelson. I don't know if it's going to go all year or they're going to do it just on opening day or what, but they're wearing a patch with the number 3 on it.
Of course. Is that still an active number? Does somebody wear 3 now, or are they retired?
I think so. Yeah, I know people have won it since then. I don't think they retired Buddy's number. I think Gooden, Strawberry. Well, Gooden actually is getting retired this year. So I don't even think that he's retired yet. But Gooden, they're going to retire Strawberry. I don't know if they've done that yet. And then Seaver, Hodges, 14. Kuzman, I think they retired his number, 36. And I think those are the only numbers, and 42 for Jackie Robinson. I think
Buddy
those are the
Biancalana, John Pregenzer, Buddy Biancalaga. Any of those guys get retired?
Biancalana. No, I don't think they
John the Count Montefusco.
No, Piazza, I don't think has gotten his number retired. Yeah, I think those are the only guys I can think of that have their number retired by the Mets. Maybe I'm missing one, but I don't think so. There's a lot of people who think that Ed Kranepool's number should be retired. I don't know if I'm in that camp. I love Ed Kranepool. I think he was a great player as far as the franchise was concerned because he played the longest. I mean, he was an original Met and was still playing in 76, 78, 79. But his performance never really came up to the retired number status.
He was just on the team when it was an exciting place to be.
Yeah, he was on the team from day one. As a matter of fact, I was just reading a story yesterday about who was it? I forget who it was that was pitching in the Mets' first game at the Polo Grounds, but Kranepool was there, and was it Roger Craig? Maybe
That's what I was going to say. Roger Craig.
Yeah, maybe it was Roger Craig, or maybe it was somebody else, former Dodger.
Remember, Roger Craig said, "Don't get your dauber down, Vinnie." So even though the Giants have lost and the Mets haven't, don't get your dauber down. It ain't over yet. It's still early.
Well, Roger had one of the great quotes in 1962. One of the great quotes to the media, which I've to this day I always thought was one of the best quotes in baseball. They asked him after the season, on the last day of the season, how he felt about losing 22 games, and he said, "I feel great about it." He says, "You got to be a pretty damn good pitcher for them to send you out there 22 times." He had a point.
He had a point. There was no one else to send out. They weren't bringing anybody up from AAA to send out.
Yeah, I mean, he was on a part of a famous rotation with, Jay Hook, Roger Craig. I think Dennis Rybant might have been in that rotation, and who was there was another former Dodger in that rotation too.
Al Downing.
Al Jackson, I think, was in that rotation.
I think the LA Times.
I don't know that Downing ever pitched for the Mets. I think Al Jackson definitely pitched for him, but I don't
I
know.
think the LA Times is looking forward to hedging their bet on Shohei Ohtani. They said he's cooperating with the investigation into how the $4.5 million got transferred to the bookie, but we haven't come to a conclusion yet. The league says it's going to be a speedy investigation. And the LA Times said, well, remember, we thought Yasiel Puig was pretty good too, bringing up calling to mind his great debut and his ignoble end of baseball after playing in several leagues.
Well, he was just like a psycho, wasn't he, Puig? I mean, he was kind of.
Yeah, but when he started, if you remember, he was hitting 2 home runs a day for.
Oh yeah, no, he was pounding the ball when he started, but he quickly, he just seemed to have like a anger problem, I guess.
He had issues.
Yeah, well, yeah, he definitely had issues. Meanwhile, of course, now one of the most popular things that you'll see on Facebook or on the internet is, immediately induct Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. I love people that so they think that Ohtani may have done something here, and it wouldn't shock me if he did do something. But so that immediately means that Pete Rose should be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And No Shoes Jackson too.
Yeah. I don't know that Jackson. I mean, I hate to say this, but if it wasn't for him not being in the Hall of Fame, who the hell would remember Shoeless Joe Jackson?
Did he have shoes, or did he just refuse to wear them?
I guess he had shoes, and he just didn't like wearing them. He liked running the bases as a country boy, barefoot. Problem is, when you're out in the field and you're cutting the heads off of frogs and you leave the rest of them there, and then you're running around the grass and you step in a pile of that stuff.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a terrible mess.
You see that green and red coming up through your toes. You know it ain't Christmas.
Also, when you're pitching and you're on the rubber and you're not wearing shoes, top of your foot gets abrased.
Well, yeah, it could hurt. But
or it could be just like a Giants pitcher. Right. You just get hurt.
That was it was a different time. That was a time when Ty Cobb could walk up to the stands, grab some guy, a crippled guy in a wheelchair, drag him out of his wheelchair onto the field, beat the living crap out of him, and then put him back in the chair, and the crowd would
play ball.
That's not Georgia Peach.
That's Mel. That's just Mel. You don't understand. No, that's just Mel. He doesn't mean nothing by it.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was a different world back then, wasn't it? It astounds me that you would have a guy who would go and drag a disabled guy, crippled guy out of his seat, and beat him up.
You think Donald?
The game would just continue.
You'd never see a great American like Donald Trump pulling anything like that.
No. You just send him $59.99. And he'll send you a Trump Bible with the Declaration of Independence
and the recording and the discography of Biff Greenwood, whatever his name is, Lee Greenwood.
Lee Greenwood, yeah, and a personalized recording of "God Bless the USA." How do you top
that?
Yeah, how do you top that? I mean,
how about the collection of the Poppy family's greatest hits? With that match?
It was just one, wasn't it?
Goodbye, Francois, my only son.
Yeah. Which way you go? Oh no, that was a different song. No, the Poppy Family was Which Way You Going, Billy?
And it was pretty
Uh,
obvious he was going that way. Everyone could see he was going that way, but no,
yeah.
not the Poppy Family. They had to write a damn song about it.
No, they wrote a song and the song I mean, I don't know if it got to number 1, but it was sure up in the top 10 for a while. In the summer of 1971, I believe. Which way you going, Billy?
He's
which
going that
was
way.
which was a hit the same time as the great, and this probably tells you where rock and roll was going at the time. Was a hit at the same time that the wonderful Daddy Dewdrop. Remember Daddy Dewdrop?
Yes,
Had a hit
I'm
with
afraid I
Chick
do.
Boom, Chick Boom, don't you just love it? Another song that you couldn't get on the charts today. You couldn't imagine Taylor Swift singing. Last night I had a crazy dream about a chick in a black bikini.
God.
Chicka boom, don't you just love it?
That was the answer to a bet. I can write a song with only using 6 words. I can guess that tune.
I can write that. Oh my god, I could, I just almost want to. Just because I'm so freaking weird, I want to now look up the uh, Chick Boom
Here we go.
chart, WABC. Let's see.
Well, how much money did it take for Rick Sklar to add that record?
Man, I got to tell you, it was a pretty popular record in New York, I remember.
Sure, ABC
Uh,
played it.
yeah, they played the crap out of that song, man. Chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chart, WABC. No, it keeps giving me chicka chicka boom boom. Let's see. Let's do this. Chicka boom. Daddy Dewdrop. I think I should be arrested just for knowing the Daddy Dewdrop. Uh, yeah, 1971. Uh, album Daddy Dewdrop. Uh,
Did he ever threaten the judge?
I think he may have. I think he actually. I think he actually had to threaten a judge just to get it on the Billboard Hot 100. Let's see. Chickaboom, Don't You Just Love It peaked at the number 9 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1971.
Well, that's very sad. I'm sorry to hear that. Very sad.
And there's probably like a great story. Daddy Dewdrop was probably a producer of some kind.
Probably gospel songs.
Yeah, I mean something that probably uh, went up to number 7 in the UK. And yeah, chicka boom. And Which Way You Going, Billy? I think we're concurrently on the charts.
Well,
Please.
Vinny, what are you driving?
Oh, I'm driving a really nice. I'm driving a Honda pickup truck, which is called the Ridgeline. and it is the Hondas have a line of uh, trail sport vehicles that they are, they beef up. They beef up the suspension. They beef up the tires. They beef up the power a little bit so that you can actually take it off road. So I got this little ditty this week. I hated to give up. Hated to
The
give
Audi.
up the Audi. That was such a really pleasurable car to drive. The one thing that doesn't hit because some people are so busy bashing electric cars is how really nice they are to drive. They're just they're so smooth and so easy to operate, and they're so high tech that they're just really nice cars to drive.
Apparently,
Now,
one of the storylines on Curb Your Enthusiasm is Larry David yells at the parking lot attendant who unplugs his electric car and doesn't charge it, so Larry David can't make his next appointment.
well, now that would be interesting because you normally shouldn't be able to unplug it without the key.
Ah,
But I don't know if Larry David may have given the guy his key.
we had to because it was a valet.
Yeah, if it's a valet.
In
Well,
fact, that's what started the whole problem. Larry David didn't give him the keys; he threw him the keys, and the parking lot guy took that as an insult.
I got to catch up on my.
Then
on
Larry
my
David thought that was an insult to him, so they have an argument, and Larry David's car does not get charged.
And we all know a Larry David. I mean, we all know something like that.
So he has to borrow the car from another character who throws him the keys.
Is it me or some of these storylines? Because I seem to remember a similar storyline in Seinfeld. Remember, Putty was working at a dealership, and Jerry took his car there, and wasn't there some kind of hassle with the way he handed him the keys or something?
It's a story about nothing.
Yeah, it's sure making him a lot of money, though.
Have yourself a good weekend show tomorrow, Ben.
You too, Mikey. Have a good weekend, and then I will catch up with you on Monday.
A miraculous Monday.
Don't rise. Please tune into Drive Time, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, where we will tell you more about the Honda Ridgeline and deep dive into the Audi, one of my favorite cars that I've driven all this year, the Audi Q8 e-tron. Just a great piece of engineering, man. You got to give Audi credit, man. They put the fine touches on this car. You know what the greatest piece of engineering is?
Tell me.
You can make the lights inside the car the Mets colors. So you can have an orange on top or a blue on top and an orange on the bottom. And you can drive around in your Audi Q8 e-tron basking in the glow.
Listening to the wrong station.
Listening to Seattle sports, trying to figure out what the hell you can't listen to Seattle sports in that car because it doesn't have an AM radio. Mikey, peace,
Vinnie,
love. Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine. See you, Vin.
See you, Mikey. Thank you all for listening, too. We always appreciate it. Muchly, more than you'll ever know. More than you'll ever know. Have a good one.
You will never know.
You'll never know. Cheaper than therapy.